The culture war rages on, and it's clear to me at this point that corporations are taking a side. Perhaps surprising to some people, but not so surprising to me at this moment. NASCAR bans Confederate flags at all races and events. So they say the following: on Monday, the only full-time African-American driver in NASCAR's Cup Series called for the auto racing body to ban Confederate flags from its events. 2 days later, they did it. The presence of the Confederate flag at NASCAR events runs contrary to our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans, our competitors, and our industry. Bringing people together around a love for racing and the community that it creates is what makes our fans and sport special. The display of the Confederate flag will be prohibited from all NASCAR events and properties. So that was their statement. That was the NASCAR statement. Now, there's one racer, something Ciccarelli, I think. He said, I'm retiring, and I'm doing it because I think that this ban is ridiculous. And then he went on to say, well, that flag doesn't mean, doesn't equal racism in the eyes of many people. And that guy said, I don't care about the flag, but there are other people who do, and so I think it's unfair to those people. And so he retired in protest. Obviously, he's become, kind of a conservative icon in many respects. Maybe conservative is a little too loose of a word and too broad of a word there. Maybe like a far-right icon in a way. Now, what's fascinating is conservatives are flipping their position on corporations and speech yet again. So they're pro-free speech when it comes to corporations on that front. Then the NFL, Colin Kaepernick kneeling, and then the NFL basically taking punitive action against him as they pretend that they're not. You have the conservatives supported the NFL's move, and the argument was hey man, they're a private company. They could do whatever they want. They can hire and fire whoever they want. And they think Colin Kaepernick doesn't represent their values, so they got rid of him. Tough cookies. That's called freedom. Freedom of the corporation to make whatever decision they find is appropriate for themselves. Well, now that total flip again here, and they say, well, no, people should be allowed to fly the flag, and I don't care that the corporation is taking this position and saying you can't fly the flag. Forget the corporation, the people should make the decision. They should have the freedom to decide and have no punishment. Yeah, but then shouldn't Colin Kaepernick have the freedom to decide how to protest and have no punishment too? So there's no consistency in their opinion. They just kind of, flip-flop on based on whichever side they're on in the specific case in question. So in other words, the political ideology overrides the commitment to any principle on free speech. What I can't get over is I would defend the right of somebody if they want to, on their private property, fly the Confederate flag. I mean, they literally have the right to do that in the United States of America. The government can't come in and say, take down your Confederate flag. They have a right on their own property to fly whatever flag they want to fly. So I believe in that principle. And I think the government is right to basically say, we have no standing. We can't go in there and tell you to take down a flag just because we don't like it. I think that's correct. But the thing I can't get over is I don't know why people are so weaselly about it. Why don't they admit, yeah, I want to fly it, and yeah, it represents what it represents? So, in other words, this specific Confederate flag, just so everybody understands, that's actually not the Confederate flag that was flown when the Confederacy existed. It only existed for 5 years, by the way. But that's not the flag that they used back then. It was a totally different flag. This flag came up and, was viewed as the Confederate flag, and it became like the new Confederate flag specifically during, the civil rights movement in the 1960s and it became an official declaration of we're pro-segregation and we are against the anti-segregation protesters. So it's like, it's the official flag of like, we want to defend the Jim Crow South. We don't want it to change. We don't want desegregation. That's what that flag, it came up specifically in the 1960s for that purpose. Like, that was the whole point of it. It became the new Confederate flag, which symbolized an opposition to the civil rights movement. Now, that's the history of it. Do I think there are some people, probably younger people, who have been told that, oh, no, this isn't about racism, this is about, Southern pride or history or whatever? I'm sure there's some young people who have been told that, and I'm sure there are some young people who believe that it really is not, oh, no, it's only about, pride and about history, it's not about race or whatever. But let's not kid ourselves as to the origins of it. So in a weird way, I would have a hell of a lot more respect for somebody who says, I want to fly it, and yes, I get that it has racist origins, and I don't care because I kind of agree with that. So yes, I want to fly it, and that's what it means to me. I would have a lot more respect for people who admitted that. But instead we get this Weasley argument of like, no, it doesn't represent that, even though the origins are literally that. Doesn't represent that, and I want to fly it. It's like, if you're gonna really, plant the flag and say, I want to fly this, at least own up to what it really is and what it really means. Okay? So, in a weird way, I almost have more respect for the open racist who's so honest and like, yeah, I want to fly it. And I also am kind of racist, and I think that what it represents is correct. I liked the way the status quo worked back in the 1950s in the South. That's what I liked. So yeah, I want to fly it, and I think certain people in society should know their place. Like, at least that would be honest. What I don't respect and what I don't like is that Weasley ass trying to have it both ways. Like, no, I want to fly it, but it doesn't really mean the thing that it means. Come on, dog. Come on. So the black racer is named Bubba Wallace, and now he's got like a Black Lives Matter car that he'll be, racing. And so NASCAR took his side, and it was just the one NASCAR driver who said, this is BS and I'm, retiring. I'm unaware of what other NASCAR drivers have said on this, but I would guess that the audience is not happy with this, that they don't like this. And so I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Should that NASCAR driver, the Bubba Wallace, the black NASCAR driver, like sort of fear for his safety a little bit? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there because there are a lot of people who are very pissed off about this. But, what I would say, and I'll close on this point, it's really reiterating the first point, which is you should really kind of take a position on not just the issue of free speech when it comes to the government, because that's what the First Amendment is about. The government can't suppress speech. But you should also take a position when it comes to freedom of speech and corporations. And then whatever position you take, be consistent with it, regardless of the specifics of the story in question. Okay? So, and again, you never see people really be principled on this front. They'll flip it based on which side of the story they agree with politically in the given instance. So with the Kaepernick example, yeah, the NFL is a private company. They can make whatever decision they want. That's what they said. Now, in the NASCAR example, they're not saying, yeah, NASCAR is a private company. They could make whatever decision they want. They flip and they go, no, they should be allowed to do it regardless of what NASCAR says. So you got to pick one, man. You have to pick a standard and stick by it, regardless of the details of the case. Because if you don't have a standard, then you're literally just a partisan hack. That's what you are. So take your position on free speech, not just when it comes to the government, but also when it comes to corporations and their approach to speech. Take a position and defend it. Okay? And don't try to always square peg, round hole all these stories. Be consistent. And again, you pretty much never hear consistency anymore on this issue, and that's very upsetting.